Halo Infinite. The one game— oh wait, we did this intro already. Yeah, I'm a bit of a Halo fan. I had just finished playing the Master Chief Collection for the first time 2 years ago, and at the time, I wasn't really aware of what was next to come in the Halo franchise. To me, Halo has always primarily been a story-based series. Even though I made an entire 15.5-minute video multiplayer, to me, Halo has always shown me that it's predominantly story. Now, some people actually may enjoy multiplayer over the campaign. Those people are liars. Through its good and through its— Halo has made me excited for each new entry. Finally, after a delay, in December 2021, I was ready for the next completely normal, 8-hour, linear, and fun Halo experience. I hate The Legend of Zelda. So, like most game franchises in our current day and age, we had a bit of a trip up within the franchise. 2, in fact. 3 if you count the launch of this one. So we go to the classic redemption of every video game franchise, a soft open world reboot. This huge trend was strangely started from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild success, and I absolutely hate it. It feels strangely similar to the boom of modern first-person shooters in the early 2000s, and I have a strong feeling that this not only will affect games coming out now, but in the long term could hurt the open world genre. This fact wildly scared me about Infinite because I felt it would fall into the same issues that most of these games fall into. So finally, when it was released, I downloaded it and hit the new file button. Let's see if I was right or not about Halo Infinite's quality. Firstly, I'm going to be going over the things I enjoyed about the game, which includes some of the story. This means that there are some pretty heavy spoilers, so if for some reason you haven't finished the game yet, well, I don't know why you clicked on this video in the first place. I did already talk about a few primary gameplay features that were in multiplayer already, so to cut most of your time, I'm going to be skipping that. Anyways, let's dive into the newest campaign in the Halo franchise. So the story starts off in an odd place with Master Chief literally dying? Alright, guess we're expecting another Last of Us Part 2. So one of the interesting things about this game's story is that this game feels incredibly unrelated to its predecessors. If you went straight from Halo 3 to Halo Infinite, I honestly wouldn't second guess if you told me this was a sequel. The Covenant unfortunately makes no appearance in this game, but it's made up because the new opposing faction is the Banished from Halo Wars 2. Alright, so before I say anything, I actually have to admit something. I didn't play the Halo Wars games. I really hated their gameplay. So because of this, I didn't know who the Banished actually were and why they existed. And after Halo Infinite, you might ask? I still don't know. They really just appear out of nowhere, which is a pretty big problem we'll see a lot, but for now, I'll hold my tongue. There's a new replacement for whatever they did to Cortana named The Weapon, and man, this is a great addition. Halo 5 feels extremely empty without a Cortana, and Blue Team did not make up for it in any way. The Weapon is drastically different from Cortana, and she's a breath of fresh air that makes the game feel so much more fluid. I really like the chemistry between her and the Chief, as it felt right at home with the older Bungie titles. There are also some new villains that appear, which is odd considering other than the Prophets, Halo really hasn't had a set antagonist up until Halo 4. Escharum is the main antagonist of this game, and not only fantastically sets the tone of the game, but mirrors Chief perfectly. Jaga— yeah, I'm not even gonna try that. Was my favorite antagonist, and as the Spartan killer, I was intrigued with what he'd do. However, there's of course an issue with him too, which again, I'll hold my tongue for now. The Harbinger existed. He did things in the story and then died. The best character they introduced is by far the pilot, who has a great arc in the story and incredible chemistry with the Chief. I enjoyed every scene he was in, and he works perfectly as a small sidekick type character. The story is your basic evil wins, but the protagonist is the one who can stop its story, and while it's extremely basic, it works pretty well. I also love seeing the references to earlier Halo games, and even things we haven't really seen cinematically, like how Chief became a Spartan and how he chose Cortana. The idea of the Banished taking over a ring for themselves was pretty interesting too, as we haven't really seen a ring get taken over by a faction yet. I also like seeing the Sentinels reappear, and oh my god, there's bugs now.
They fly now? There's bugs now!
So the new creatures of this game are called the Skimmers, and they fly similarly to the Sentinels, except they hold shock rifles this time. So they're more annoying. This is supposed to be the big change enemy-wise, and they're no flood, that's for sure. Overall, the story was relatively good, but a bit basic. To be fair though, it's a very Halo-y feeling story, but Halo's always been a pretty basic story in general, so I'm glad we're making a step in the right direction. Some other huge changes that this game brought with it were its soundtrack and art style. The soundtrack has moved from an oddly generic Marvel soundtrack to a perfect blend between the two trilogies. This is honestly the best soundtrack we've had in the Halo game since Reach, and I really do wonder why. Oh. Gareth Coker. He made the Minecraft Battle Mode soundtrack. The art style is also much more stylized than its predecessors. This one feels very at home with Halo CE, which is a trend this game seems to follow a lot. I am, however, grateful because it made things look really pretty, like the sky and the grass and the incredible Forerunner door. The gameplay was changed quite a lot in Halo Infinite. In fact, it's the biggest change of them all. The game switches the focus a lot more on movement rather than precision because, well, the game has mountains now. That changes everything. The game's first missions are very in line with the Halo series and are easily my favorite part of the game. The map design feels so much like Halo CE, I feel like I'm about to listen to a Limp Bizkit song. After these missions though, you get to the biggest change in the game by far, which is the open world area of Zeta Halo. This is where 95% of the game takes place and where all of the changes come in. They attempted to recreate the feeling of when you first walked out onto the first ring in Halo CE, and it tried. Zeta Halo is essentially if you took the Silent Cartographer mission and stretched it to 10 hours. Does that make it fun? No. I did enjoy finding collectibles and doing the side missions, even if at some point they weren't really worth much. The strongholds you can invade were a really nice addition, and I liked how it meshed with the sandbox because it gave you a choice of strategizing as if you were in Shadow of Mordor or running into it guns blazing. The high value targets you could find around the map were also pretty fun to fight against and sometimes even a challenge. The guns you got from them I didn't really use as they were just slightly better versions of already pre-existing guns. The forward operating bases were short, easy battles that opened up fast travel areas and arsenals of weapons and vehicles that you could drop, which was a very convenient and helpful way to explore the open world area. Halo Infinite would have been the next Red Dead Redemption 2 if we didn't have those. In general, the sandbox for this game is the best we've had since Halo 3 because it truly gives you the option to pick any option you want and work with your surroundings, which in my opinion is Halo's gameplay at its core. I enjoyed how there were no restrictions but cooldowns on the newly returning equipment, and I also really liked the upgrades. Wait, hold on. Upgrades? So Halo now has upgrades to equipment that you can get via collectibles called Spartan Cores. Do I like this? On paper, sure, but it does kind of drift away from what Halo is in theory, and I'm not the biggest fan of it in action. But come on, you can make the grappling hook shock people and Falcon Punch people halfway across the sky. That is so cool. But 343, please don't do the whole upgrade thing again. It really doesn't fit. Overall, though, I did enjoy walking around Zeta Halo and exploring it. While I do have some issues with it that I'll get into shortly, it was overall very fun to experience and a fantastic step in the right direction for the franchise. Oh, thank God my time is up. I can finally bash 243 again. So, Halo Infinite. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the gameplay. What more can I say? It's a good game. But it isn't a Halo 2. Halo Infinite has some major problems that I do not like, and it scares me not only for the future of the Halo franchise, but for the future of the gaming industry as a whole. As I said in the beginning of the video, I really hate the trend of every game becoming an open world experience because half of them just don't need to be. Pokemon, open world. Sonic, open world. Spider-Man, okay, you gotta pass just this once. Halo Infinite definitely suffers as a result of this, and it has other problems that stem from that. Firstly, a small issue I had with Halo Infinite is some things in its art style. While I absolutely adore this style overall for Halo, certain things look horrible. I mean, look at Mr. Lego Brick over here and tell me that this works. Another example is the newest leaks of the next Doom game. Don't these guys just look out of place? While the overall art style is great, it suffers from some really small but noticeable issues. The gameplay suffers a bunch in Halo Infinite. The biggest complaint I've heard is Zeta Halo's repetibility, which for me personally, I didn't necessarily experience while playing, but I could definitely notice a very obvious pattern within the gameplay loop. Now, Halo's always had a very rinse and repeat type gameplay, as it was like every shooter in the early 2000s. Halo Infinite somehow makes this worse, because every mission or small collectible is multiplied by 50. As much as I loved the strongholds, they started to feel the exact same, with slightly different layouts towards the end, and especially when all of their objectives were the same: blow up these pillars, I definitely could sense a pattern. Side missions, if you would even call them that, are really repetitive themselves, but also do nothing but give you valor and are a huge time waster. Side missions in games should always give you a second side of the story or show you more about the characters or places you're visiting. This game refuses to ever expand and repeats the same Saving Marines quest multiple times. Valor, as a currency or XP replacement, felt very forced in, as the only thing it did was give you more things to drop at forward operating bases, which in my opinion made every single side quest or collectible or tower that you broke feel really unrewarding. Another issue Halo Infinite has is its lack of visual diversity within the grounds of Zeta Halo. Every single second of the game you're either in the same grassy plains area or underground in a Forerunner structure. There are no different biomes, no different places, just grass. Am I playing Halo Infinite or Lawn Mowing Simulator? The issue that stems off of this one is that it makes each mission feel the exact same visually. I finished this game a month ago, and if you were to show me two different screenshots of two different missions, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one's which. This makes for extremely poor replayability, and I don't think I'd really ever go back to Halo Infinite's main mission. Oh. You literally can't. There is literally no sort of mission selector in Halo Infinite's campaign. What is it with this game and not giving you any sort of menu choices? Every Halo game before this has perfected these issues, ranging from visual diversity for each mission, which makes them unique and replayable, to having a mission selector. Why are we missing these things? Oh god, I haven't even talked about the story issues yet. Alright, riddle me this. What was the point of the Endless? They never gave us an answer, but yet this mysterious species is somehow more powerful than the Flood and also related to Forerunners once again. Halo, I have a request for you. Please throw Halo 4 and 5 out of the room. I really hate the whole Forerunner side of Halo, and this trilogy focuses way too much on it. For me, the military and war side of Halo should be what it should be about, as that's literally what 6 games are built off of. I didn't care about the Harbinger the entire time because she's just some random Forerunner from 100 millennia before this. The Skimmers, which are supposed to be the new enemy in this game, are also Forerunner creatures. I don't care about the Forerunners. I just want to see more of the Human Covenant War or the Banished War or anything about the main factions of this game, which this game never expands on. Half of the new characters that are introduced also seem to get no time to be cared for or develop. Things are just introduced for no reason and have no development. For example, there are 2 other Banished higher-ups that are mini-bosses. I can't even remember their names. Spartan Stone, which one of the 16 missions of this game is primarily about, you're supposed to care about without knowing him beforehand. And oh my god, they wasted Jega so incredibly hard. When you have such a cool design character being built up as a literal Spartan killer and then you just meet him and kill him, why? This was such a cool character and you wasted him just for the sake of bloating the game's open world to be the biggest Halo experience yet, and by far the worst part of this game is a problem the gaming industry has been facing for quite some time recently. The game on both ends just feels unfinished. When you have the game opening completely unrelated and soft reboot, it feels so uncomfortable. Sure, even if I hated Halo 5 and find it to be by far the worst in the series, it still had plot points that are now never driven home. 95% of the game's story and lore connection is also purely held back to audio tapes or one-off voice lines. This makes the game feel so incomplete. The ending of this game, in my opinion, is where it falls off the hardest and is easily my least favorite part of the game. The reason for that is because of what it tries to imply and introduce. There are 2 things I hate in a game franchise that you can introduce. The first is a multiverse, and the second is time travel. Halo Infinite's ending tries to lure in time travel, which is a terrible turn for Halo. Time travel just makes a plot way too complicated, especially over a string of games, and I feel like Halo could 100% go down that same path. And not only does the ending introduce this, but reveals 2 more things, the pilot's name and the weapon's name. You know, maybe we'll even get your name in there somewhere. These points feel as if the game was running on a checkbox list, and they forgot to do these last 2 up until the end. They also play these reveals as if they're huge reveals, especially the weapon, as presumably she names herself after Cortana, which by itself is a terrible idea because she just attempted to conquer the galaxy and literally killed millions last game. Oh yeah, and the game ends on a cliffhanger too, so they can sell DLC. What a wonderful game industry we live in right now. So, to wrap this all up, live games are a horrible idea. I absolutely hate them. There was so much focus on attempting a free-to-play and multi-campaign Halo that now once again, the main campaign gets shafted awkwardly to a very mid-tier state. I was so excited for Halo Infinite, but the only real thing I can say about it is that I was content while playing it. It almost feels underwhelming, as nothing stuck out to me like the rest of the games in the franchise, and it just feels like 15-ish hours of filler to introduce you to Zeta Halo for more DLC. Is this game good and worth playing? Yeah, but is the game extremely flawed? 100%. While this game is a huge bounce up from Halo 4 and 5, it still lacks so many things the original games had. For all of these reasons, I'm giving Halo Infinite 2 scores, one for the campaign alone and one for the complete package. The score I give for the campaign alone was actually pretty undecided and is around a 7.5 to 8, as I couldn't really decide. It's worth playing, but not nearly as much as the originals, as it lacks so many things. For the complete package all around, Halo Infinite's final score has to be an 8 out of 10. It's fun, and it really hurts me to say that it's not perfect, but 343, I give up on a good Halo game. I've given you guys 2 strikes now, but each time you prove time and time again to fail. Hopefully, the series will be fixed in the future and I can come back and say that it is incredible. But for now though, that's all for today. And hey, look, I uploaded more than 1 video this year.